But I wonder, and let me ask you this, when does nostalgia lie and when does it save? Your brain is more flexible than you know. It's neuroplastic. It can strengthen new connections, it can disconnect other ones. Today I want to talk about nostalgia. Because what do you mean, why do I care about scrapbooking? My favorite part about being over in someone's home is when the photo albums come out. Some organize separate albums by year, some by subjects, and some by photographers. Some are pristine, original prints, and some are faded cutouts from brochures and yearbooks to remember the date or memorialize that moment. It's uniquely their mosaic of lasting memories. The ones that someone really considered and decided it was worth the material keepsake, an accessible fragment of time in pages you can share with guests in the intimacy of your own home. At 10 years old, I made an emergency go bag in case of a fire, and it held all of the cards I've ever received on my birthday, photo booth pictures of me and my best friend, and the teddy bear dressed in a tiger onesie. At 17 years old and in love for the first time, I started every text message he sent that made me feel something. And I still have the playlist we built together saved and available for him to access. At 25 years old, and I'll tell you why later, I'm framing underexposed 20-year-old expired film. I'm a person who hoards beautiful small sentences. I love going to secondhand trinket stores that carries treasures from 10,000 different places and owners. I've been told to be careful with nostalgia as if it's an addiction, like it's the looking glass to my Alice. Sure, memories are distorted in your mind as time goes on. But I wonder, and let me ask you this, when does nostalgia lie and when does it save? Let me share with you a study where combat veterans with PTSD showed reduced encoding activity in the hippocampus and amygdala, relying on just memory rather than detailed memory. National Institute of Health funded research identified neural circuits in the amygdala that are involved in preserving or extinguishing fearful memories. In an evolutionary sense, to answer the question of why did human brains adapt in this way? The brain may want to preserve memories that help you survive in the future, or extinguishing memories that help you reduce chronic stress. Your brain is deciding how to best keep you functioning and alive once the threat of the memory is gone. Essentially, the brain can reduce spontaneous access to overwhelming material. It can decide when it will allow you to remember something when you feel safe, or when the memory is unavoidable and needs to be confronted, and likewise when it's time to let go. In the last several years, it scared me to realize that I don't remember much of my youth anymore. There are pictures and home videos that cover the outline of my younger existence, but really they're only a handful of formative moments I can definitely recall now. Even remembering now in the act of remembering, it would have been an aged perspective. One that must have been the eroded version of the actual moment I experienced, right? I remember the first few months when I first started therapy in college. I remember feeling a positive change and then a sharp negative one, where my mental state took a turn for the worse, and I was unsure if I could recover. The therapist I was working with explained that it's possible that my trauma, with built-up psychophysiological burden, even thoughts were, at some point, a threat to my survival. So they were pushed down. But why did I feel so bad in therapy now? Well then, the trauma was allowed to resurface now that I was in a better place, a safer one, now than I was then. That my body is ready, intuitively allowing itself to process and heal, I suppose, to move on. What often happens? What often happens is that the good parts remain, the ones that hurt don't, because your body wants to expel that hurt to protect you. And although that's a probably good thing to move on, I worry that the integrity of the memory becomes a sham, that I didn't live the thing that I actually lived. When the brain wants to shelve and shift and work around the thing that happened after the fact, doesn't it lose its depth, the impact, the color, the memory? Don't you become an unreliable narrator when the bad parts are edited out? This is where my stubbornness feels obvious. Asking my brain to go against itself to remember the bad parts, the painful parts. Convinced that it will make me better today because then I can have the full picture, the full account. Picture this. You have reasons to hate your dad, but now you're older, and the bad parts suddenly don't seem so bad anymore. The good parts feel great, actually, and now you're ready to spend more time at home because he's getting old. Is nostalgia lying here, or is it saving? Am I putting myself at risk vulnerably by letting the past take a new shape, or am I realizing steps toward fulfillment? Steps into the present. Nostalgia is often the tenderness you feel with safety, rose-tinted glasses. Might I even say yearn? Nostalgia when it feels like loss, though. When you yearn for the past to the point of constraint in the present, through comparison. Maybe I'm calling myself out or saying that I might have been stunted for a while in how I perceived and understood and valued nostalgia. When you mistake nostalgia for something more, when maladaptive nostalgia becomes your first line of defense, to cope with life, to avoid uncertainty of grief, to idealize the past and devalue the present, to consider and decide the past is better, consider it something that it likely isn't. It shrinks your capacity to live in the now. So how am I shifting the way that I relate to my memories? The truth is, there may not be a true, accurate way of remembering something forever. I think you need a right, deadpan, objective, third-person fact transcriber, like in court. There's a contextual present-day lens that will differ from the absolute past, and I suppose that is significant. That makes all the difference. So film photography is where I'm starting. The photos I've taken on film are far from accurate, and you can see the contact sheets. It tells the same story. They're missing part of the memory, like color, person, perspective. These are the things you can't see in the photo. They are developed so far into the future from the moment that I forget how many days are etched into each roll, how many hands shaped its lens. But it reminds me that that's not all important. Just as in scrapbooking, someone decided which photos to print. With photography, someone decided which moments to save. When you're obsessing over remembering everything around you as it happened, you forget yourself in that moment. You forget to account that you are valid in your perspective, and in your perspective back then and in your perspective today. And just because the brain is malleable and can change the way that you perceive and understand things from then to now, I think that saves you. That doesn't take away from the moment that it happened. It doesn't take the significance away from it happened. It reminds me that I was there in that present, valuing that instant where you may see blurry, unrecognizable imagery. My friends on this Montana ski trip may look at the scrapbook years later and decipher that blob as another friend. And we can revisit this moment in a new one, where we're laughing around a coffee table after rounds of board games, as friends who stayed in touch after many years. Your brain is more flexible than you know. It's neuroplastic. It changes, it adapts, and reorganizes its structure. It can strengthen new connections, it can disconnect other ones. And that allows us to learn from memories, recover from injury, help us shift thinking into ourselves. But repeated thoughts and behaviors create stronger emotional pathways. And knowing that that makes actions easier over time, I guess it's about time to think about what you want to feel more of. Anyways, thanks for listening to my ramble. I hope it made you think about some memories that you want to throw away or let go of, that you might want to remember, some that you want to keep. But if you like this video, let me know what else you would like me to talk about and ponder over. I'm advocating for scrapbooking today, and thank you for watching.